Hello there folks, and how is it going? And welcome back to another video. Where are we? We are in my office. Today I want to talk about a subject that's very near and dear to my heart, and that is one of inspiration. Being a photographer or any creative, whether it be photography, design, or any of that kind of stuff, sometimes it can be very, very difficult to find inspiration, to motivate you, to push yourself out the door, or to sit in front of the computer to do your thing. And ultimately, that's kind of what I want to dig into a bit today. For me, inspiration basically boils down to lighting a fire of creativity that ultimately drives me to do what I love, and that is to take photographs of the beautiful world that we all live in. Now, granted, we all love the idea of going to far-flung destinations to photograph unique locations, or the locations that have been saturated and photographed to death. But I have always maintained that's fine. They're Instagram spots for a reason, because they are wonderful. But we can obviously still find wonderful and beautiful locations outside our own door, whether you live like me very near the coast, the south coast. I have maybe 5-minute drive away, or the west coast of Portugal here, South Portugal. For me, the first port of call for when I feel uninspired or a lack of juice to do anything is to just go outside my own door. And one of the beautiful things about having a camper van, or a small, I use the word camper van very lightly, it's a van with a bed in the back. One of the beautiful things about having something like that is it gives you the opportunity to explore and really burrow and dig deep into a location. And that's ultimately what we tried to do during that road trip. And like I say, for me, I felt super productive, super inspired, because ultimately I was exploring somewhere new. I was getting the opportunity to put into practice all of the research that I spent, planning and preparation and finding these locations, and ultimately working out how it will work. That drive and the anticipation for that was a real source of inspiration for me, and one that really kind of lit that fire of creativity that, ultimately burns within. If you can't get yourself outside or go on little holidays or road trips or anything like that, for me, the next place that I turn is YouTube. Whether you make content for YouTube or not, or whether you just sit and enjoy the wonderful photographers that are on YouTube, I find huge inspiration from them. And finding new photographers on YouTube as well is always really something that I try and actively do, just to engage more in the community. I really, really enjoy doing that. So the next place I like to turn to are books. I have a small selection of photography books right here, and I cherish them. I think they are wonderful. But just to briefly touch on some of these books that I have here, this is like a food photography book. I did a lot of that kind of work when I was at home, and still kind of, still do that here, getting inspiration and finding inspiration from these kinds of things. This is more of kind of like a how to like style food and how to ultimately light food. Book by a wonderful photographer named Joni Simon, who's on YouTube too, and I would absolutely recommend, if you have any interest in that world, to check her work out, because it really is absolutely fantastic. Another book that I have, it's all just basically about light and how it works, and how us as photographers can use light to sculpt and create the images that, whether it be a client or you have in your own mind in relation to what you want to create. Wonderful, wonderful book. I would absolutely recommend this book. It's chunky and it can be, but it's like one that you'd like, I'm reading a book on science and light. I also have a huge fascination with architectural photography, and one of my favorite architectural photographers is a fellow by the name of Mike Kelly. And this is one of his books that I bought. But this book, for me, is great because, again, it's just I know nothing about Los Angeles, but I appreciate the art form that Mike Kelly puts into his work. And again, for me, anytime I go to a city, I always try to seek out the architecture and try and capture that, and trying to photograph the essence of that architecture. His work is so wonderful. It's so subtle and so well crafted. I would absolutely recommend this book if you have any inclination into that world. Super duper duper work and wonderful. But as I say, the meat and bones, and ultimately what this YouTube channel is about nature photography and about being outside in nature and enjoying all the wonderful things that it has to offer. This book here is just a wildlife photography book. I love it. I love it. Not necessarily being primarily a wildlife photographer. I love the opportunity to do that. But this is just so wonderful. The pictures are stunning, like really, really, really stunning. And again, just flicking through it, even right this very minute, I can feel goosebumps on my arms because they are just so, so wonderful. And if nothing, it would just make me, apart from that gnarly looking spider, it would just make you want to get up and get out and experience nature to the fullest as you can. Anyway, I've been through these books so many times that even flicking through them now after maybe 1 or 2 months of not doing it, it still surprises you when you come across images that are absolutely wonderful. Photography on Location by Thomas Heaton. Been following his work for many, many, many years. And obviously having the opportunity to work with him was a real treat. And I did get the book before I met him. So full disclosure, there was no discounts given. But this book is wonderful. I'm sure anybody who is watching this watches Thomas Heaton's YouTube channel, and rightly so, because it is marvelous. His approach to video making and ultimately his photography is very, very inspirational. It's one that's it's gorgeous. Like, it's really, really wonderful. And if you have the opportunity to get one of his books, I know he has a new book out at the moment, but absolutely this one here is a real marvel, because again, it's just one that's like, you pick it up and you can sit with a cup of tea, a cup of coffee, and just feel inspired by the idea of somebody putting in love and attention into their craft. And that's ultimately what Thomas Heaton has done here. It's wonderful. Like, it's really wonderful. You know, one of the things that I struggle with personally is feeling like, if I'm not photographing the epic grand vista, then it's not what I'm doing, you know. And one of the things that has really inspired me is making these YouTube videos is to focus in, pardon the pun, and like really zoom in on the details and the finer details. And that's one thing that I really enjoy about Thomas Heaton's work, and particularly of late, is that it's just honing in on those finer details and making sure everything is just spot on, and it's really, really a real treat. So anyway, I don't want to linger too much because this video has probably gone on too long, but if you get the opportunity, absolutely give this book a read. Another book that I have, there's a link in the description. There's not really, but Chasing Awe by Gavin Hardcastle. I really enjoy Gavin's work. It's exceptional, from the way that he presents his videos. Obviously, we all know it's a good laugh. I really enjoy Gavin's work. I think he's an exceptional photographer, and the way he processes his images as well as one that, again, it's just fuel for my own creativity and pushes me to want to think, how did he do this with that? You know, and it's a constant learning thing that we engage in. But Gavin's work is really exceptional, and I really do love it. I don't want to linger too much. If you get the opportunity, absolutely pick this up, because it's really, really wonderful. And as far as I can gather, he's in the process of making a new one, so I look forward to getting that one as well. This here is just a landscape photographer, like this was a competition, landscape photographer of the year kind of competition that they compiled a book out of. These are just normal Joe blogs who enjoy their craft and got put into the book, and some absolutely striking images. I mean, like, it's really, some of them are just, they're gorgeous, like really gorgeous. And I hope you can see them. I have another camera up there. I hope you can catch a glimpse of them up there. But one of the things that is a constant source of inspiration for me is that while Gavin and Thomas Heaton and all the people that we as consumers of YouTube photographers enjoy, it's always wonderful to see people that don't necessarily create content for YouTube but still love the craft of photography, and it's wonderful to get the opportunity to see their work particularly presented so beautifully in a book such as this. Wonderful book, and a huge source of inspiration for me, for sure. This book is a big one. This is National Geographic. National Geographic, I'm sure for a huge amount of people, has been a source of inspiration because the front cover of National Geographic was always like a really striking, compelling image. And this is essentially just like a cataloging of their archive. But this is wonderful because it's... I hope you can see up here on this camera, the pictures are just absolutely stunning, and ones that you would come to expect from the National Geographic. Their standards are absolutely exceptional. But for me, just the first kind of like chapter of this book is what really stands out. I really enjoy photography as a craft, as an art form, and all that stuff. But one of the beautiful things about it is that it's like a cataloging of history, and seeing these old exploration images, and seeing the kind of human endeavor that was put into life way back when, and getting the opportunity to just catch just this tiniest frame of people's lives back then is really wonderful as far as I'm concerned. So this is just an all Arctic expedition. I hope you can see that up here on this one. And the aurora, obviously it's like the guy was like, how do I photograph this? But it's such a wonderful image. And even though these kinds of rules of composition and all of these kinds of things were very much in their infancy back then, you can really see from images like this, and even particularly the one next to it here, this portrait, how those rules were kind of created, because looking at these images you can see how striking they are and how aesthetically pleasing they are. And it's again, for me, just a wonderful glimpse into history and into the past. Machu Picchu in 1913, you know, these kinds of things are just fantastic to see. But anyways, if you find this book, this is a wonderful book. As it's a chunky one, and it's a real kind of sitting down, having a cup of tea kind of one that you would pick up every so often and just peruse through, and again, fuel that creativity to ultimately get you out the door to do what you love. So yeah, anyways, that's just a brief little insight into the small collection of books that I have. I really would like to get more. There's lots of photographers that I'm big fans of, particularly from Ireland. Being Irish, I love Ireland, and I really would love to try and get one or two of those as well if I can, just to make me feel homesick. I hope at least that from the videos that I have been creating over the last while, hey, if Neil can do it, then anybody can do it. Some lots of fun adventures to come. So do please feel free to subscribe if you fancy, and yeah, I'll see you on the next one. Take it easy, everybody. Cheers.